Hello, I wanted to make this video kind of detailing the process of how I made this lovely lady right here. It is a Gambeson that's going to be part of a larger project that I'm working on for one of my best friends. Her husband is incredible at making armor and I have some sewing skills, so we wanted to work together to create an outfit for her. So this is just my portion of this outfit. He is working on a set of gold armor that's going to go with this, so I won't have a finished product here at the end of the video. You'll just see my portion, but hopefully down the road I'll have some really cool pictures of her in her full garb once this is all complete. Let's kind of get right into this. So this whole project was inspired loosely by Pierce Brown's series Red Rising. It's a book series. It's Allison's favorite series. We love the books as well, so we wanted gold, black, kind of Death Knight theme for this whole thing. So that's what this is loosely inspired by. We also wanted to kind of keep it medieval, so that's why it's not really futuristic-y kind of like in the books, but I think it'll be really cool regardless whenever it's all finished. So this was my first time kind of making something like this, and I am super happy with how it turned out. I did the pattern myself, came up with a lot of techniques for how I did things myself, and I'm very pleased. There's a few things here and there that maybe I would tweak if I were to do this again, but overall I'm very happy with the result here. So let's go ahead and get right into me showing you the process of how I did this. I'll kind of go back and forth between doing voiceovers and kind of explaining in real time how I did this, but I'll try to be as clear as I can with how I'm doing things. But this is my first time recording me making something, so some things may be a little all over the place, but I will do my best to explain my process here. I went through a couple different ideas on what we wanted to do for the design of this. Originally, I thought we were going to do more of a futuristic kind of design, but then Allison's husband said, no, let's kind of keep it more of a medieval theme. So we redesigned a little bit, went with that, and honestly, I'm a bit happier with the final result here than I was with my original idea.
Hey, Dad.
I had a wonderful little project manager for this whole thing. What you can see me doing here is just sketching out my pattern on my dress form. I did this by covering my whole thing in saran wrap first and then putting painter's tape and paper tape over the top of it to give me a good drawing surface to work on. So I went around, sketched the outline of how I wanted the final bodice to fit. I sketched it all in pen first, and then I went over at the end with Sharpie just to give everything a good bold outline. So after everything was all sketched out, I cut along the black lines that I had just drawn and took my individual pattern pieces, laid them out on my butcher paper that I have here just to get a more solid sketch of the outline of these pieces, because the pieces with the tape on them are a bit wobbly, so it works best to just sketch them all out on paper before transferring them to my mock-up fabric. So we had our final pattern pieces done, and now it was time to move on to sewing our mock-up. First things first, I had to lay out all my pattern pieces, and I just used a cotton muslin, laid out my pattern pieces on here, and got it all cut out. Once I had all my pattern pieces cut out, I was ready to start pinning everything together and sewing them together on my machine. After what felt like a year of pinning and sewing, I finally had my mock-up done and it was approved by my foreman, and I was ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so it's been a few days since I started this project and I haven't filmed anything the past couple of days of what I've been doing, but I got a lot done. So as you can see behind me here, I finished the mock-up, got everything done. Allison came over this weekend and tried everything on and it ended up fitting perfectly. The only thing I had to alter was I had to cut a little bit out of the armhole up there just to get that to not like dig so much into her arm, but that was the only alteration I had to make, which I was really happy about. So I finished that, started testing out some like seams to how I wanted to close the raw edges on the seams in the front, you know, the seams that aren't going to have edge binding around it. So I started testing out a little bit of that, and I'm basically just going to do a French seam for those, and I think it'll look really nice. I also started testing out how I wanted to do the quilting design on the main panels. I originally started, let me find my piece. I originally wanted to do black stitching on the quilting because I didn't want it to be super obvious. I thought that gold thread all over in a quilted pattern, I thought it would be too much. But when I started messing around with it, you can't see the black at all. And I tried a couple different things. I tried doing a single stitch, and then I came up with what I think is something that I came up with myself. I've never seen anybody do it before, but I did basically just a really tiny little zigzag stitch to make a thicker line on all of my quilting lines. And while it looks cool, this fabric is kind of textured and so you can't really see it still. So with just some yellow thread I started making a couple lines. I did a single line there, and then that is testing out again my little like really narrow zigzag stitch to make it a thicker line. I think that this thicker line would be too much all over everything, so I've decided that I'm going to go with just a single line stitch. I got some gold thread, which I'm very excited about. I think it's going to look really cool, but I think that's what we're going to go with all over everything. We're not doing black, we're going to do gold stitching everywhere, and I hope it turns out cool. So after I got my mock-up done, started testing out some pieces, I got all of my fabric cut out, I got all of my lining cut out, got all of my the fashion fabric layer got all that cut out, and I essentially just took the pieces and kind of basted the two layers together so that they would stay together while I'm quilting everything, and then I'm going to sew everything together, if that makes any sense at all. So I got all that done over the weekend as well, and then last night I went through and mapped out my quilting pattern on all of my various panels here. So we've got a lot to do. I started messing with my gold thread a second ago, just testing out different tensions,
and stuff, trying to work with it because this is a very, very thin thread. It's probably about half the width of a normal thread. So I'm a little bit worried that it's probably gonna snap at some point, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But so far it's looking really cool. The lighting in here is terrible because it's nighttime, but you can kind of see it. It's very glittery, very shiny, but I think because it's so thin, it's gonna look really nice. It's not gonna be too overwhelming. The stitches on my quilting, as you just saw, are not gonna be this close together. They're, I measured them, they're 2 inches apart for each line. So I think it's gonna look really cool in the end, especially with the gold edge binding around everything. I started testing that on top of the fashion fabric, and I think that's gonna look really cool. So right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start sewing all of my quilting lines on everything, and I'm gonna try to get a little time lapse of me attempting to do that. So here we go. Hello, it is the next day. I finished all of the quilting last night. It took about 3.5 hours total. I started around 8 and then didn't get done until about 11:45. So I am a little bit tired today because I had to get up early. But we got it all done, and I think it looks incredible. I'm very happy with how the gold thread turned out. Thaddeus is eating lunch next to me, so you can probably hear him a little bit. I'm super happy with how everything turned out. The gold thread, I ended up being right, was kind of hard to work with. It kept snapping every once in a while. I think mostly due to the fact that I was using the wrong needle. I wasn't using what was recommended for it, but I wasn't gonna go buy a whole new set of needles just for this project. So I was using the wrong needle, so it's probably my fault, but we got it all done, and I think it looks incredible. Yeah? You see Mama on the camera? Today my goal is to just clean off all the chalk lines. I have a little bit of just my tailor's chalk where I was kind of marking out some guidelines and everything. So yeah. So I'm gonna clean those off today. I'm not gonna do any other sewing today. I have plans tonight, so I'm not gonna work on this, but honestly that kind of works out perfectly just so that I can take a little breather for a day, and not make sure I don't get burnt out on this project, because I'm having such a fun time right now that I don't want to work on it too much and then lose my drive to finish it. So when I do start sewing again, probably tomorrow, my goal is to get everything sewn together. I don't think I'll be able to finish all the raw edges and everything, but I'll at least get everything sewn together. And then the following day, probably press everything, get all my raw edges sewn, and then if I get to it, start sewing on the edge binding, but I really doubt that I'll get to it that day. But my goal is to get the edge binding at least attached with my machine on one side. It'll make more sense when I'm doing it, but essentially I'm gonna attach the edge binding on one side, fold it over, and then hand sew the other side. That way it's an invisible seam. We won't see it. I think that looks best. I think it would look best for this project. So we'll see. But my main goal is to get to that point where I'm hand sewing by the end of this week, so that I can take it on the go with me wherever. I can take it in the car. We have to go to Houston next week, so I'm hoping I can take it to Houston with me. That way I'm not stuck in my sewing machine, and I can, work on it at my leisure. So that's my plan for now. I'm super excited with how this is turning out. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. Can't wait to see what it looks like next, because I feel like every step so far is just looking better and better and better. So I can't to see what. Yeah, are you excited too? You excited about it? Yeah. So with that, it was time to get back to the endless task of pinning and sewing and pinning and sewing.
And as luck would have it, as soon as I got through all these pins and started sewing, my needle began hitting my presser foot and completely broke. Not sure what happened there, but it was most unfortunate. After some deep breaths, some adjusting, and a brand new needle, we got back to stitching all of my pieces together. This surprisingly didn't take as long as I thought it was going to, so I was able to get a lot more done on this night than I originally planned for. Okay, I actually got done sewing all these seams super fast, so I'm gonna go ahead and press all these seams, and then we will go ahead and stitch them all down. I didn't quite think this through, and I'm getting a little bit nervous, but I'm folding these seams over to do a French seam, and it's gonna be 8 layers of fabric to sew through, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do here because I don't think that's gonna work. We'll try it and see what happens. If it breaks my needle, it breaks my needle, but this is very thick. Okay, it actually sewed through perfectly fine and looks amazing. Oh, look how pretty this is turning out. I'm so happy. Look at that beautiful seam. Okay, I'm gonna press the rest of this and then sew all my seams. All right, here is where we're at so far. Got everything sewn together. And I think it is looking incredible. Next up is going to be to add all the gold edge binding everywhere, and then I believe we are going to be done. As you can probably tell here, I had already been working on this for a while, finishing off the edge binding. I think at this point I had been working for about 12 hours on it, got all of the bodice pieces edged, got all the skirt panels edged, and at this point I was just finishing off the collar portion and the armholes, and then we were basically done with this project. There was a couple little details that I needed to add, like the buttons and the button loops, but other than that, we were pretty much done here. One thing I didn't video myself doing was making the button loops and sewing on the buttons because it really took no time at all. The button loops, I just made those out of scraps from the edge binding. I just folded them over, stitched it to the back side, and those were done and lined up the buttons where I wanted those to go. And one thing I was super excited about was these buttons are actually from my great-great-grandma's stash of buttons. I have probably 5,000 buttons from her. So I was super excited to get to use them on a project and have them be part of something beautiful that I created. And with that, we were done with this project. It took probably about 100 hours total from, starting from the planning stage to sewing the final stitch on this. And I would say every hour that was put into this was 100% worth it. I learned a lot of skills, got to practice a lot of skills that I already had some knowledge of, and so it was just a really great experience to be able to make this. And it's also a wonderful experience to be able to make something for a beautiful friend. So very happy with how everything turned out. I hope you enjoy looking at it as well. I am very excited to see the final product whenever her armor's done. We also have a weapon that we're probably going to make for it if it all works out. And she's designing a mask to go with it as well. It's going to be very cool whenever it's all finished. So it'll be probably a few months before it's completely done, but at that point I'll share some pictures whenever it's all put together. But yeah, we're complete. I'm very happy. It feels kind of weird to be done with it, but I'm excited to move on to whatever my next project is going to be, and I hope to maybe take you along with me as well.